you have to pick up a package about 70 pounds in weight, and you are made to carry that package on your back and go a long journey. So with every step, the package seems to be heavier. And at the end of the journey, you are able to throw down that package. Now, when you have to carry the package on the back, you are suffering. You are in dukkha. And the dukkha is caused by picking up that package. And when you throw down, you feel relieved and you are glad. So throwing down is actually the cause of your relief or your gladness. Now this simile we should understand in connection with a discourse given by the Buddha. And that discourse is found in the Samyutta Nikaya. It is a very short sutta. It's about a page. Although it is a short sutta, it contains many things to understand, and so we can expand it into many pages, giving explanations to those are taught in this discourse. Expect this discourse to begin with the usual opening passage, Evam me sutang, thus have I heard. But we don't find those words at the beginning of this discourse. We just find the words Niya Sawati and then just that. I think the elders at the first Buddhist council who recorded these suttas were very patient. Now they had to put this passage at the beginning of every discourse. But I think even there is a limit to the patience of these arahants. Or, more probably, it was not the elders at the first Buddhist council, but those who wrote them down on the palm leaves that lost patience. So, in this collection, the collection of the kindred sayings, at the beginning of many suttas, they just put the words in Sawati, and so on. But whenever we see the word in Sawati and so on, we must understand that this means that this discourse was given by the Buddha when he was staying in the Jetavana monastery in the Anathapindika's park near the city of Sawati. And there he addressed the monks and so on. Sutta is like the one we studied, the Dhamma Heritage Sutta, because there was nobody who requested the Buddha to give this talk. So he just went to the assembly hall or Dhamma hall and he called the monks, and then he just delivered this sutta. The name of this discourse is Bhara Sutta. I will tell you the burden, the carrier of the burden, the taking up of the burden and laying down of the burden. Listen to it, pay good attention. And then Buddha said, what is the burden? The 5 aggregates of clinging should be the answer. So the Buddha said the 5 aggregates of clinging were burden. Now, in this term, 5 aggregates of clinging, we have to understand 3 things here. The 5, the aggregates, and clinging. So, first we will understand the aggregate. Now, when Buddha analyzed the whole world, including the beings, he analyzed them into 5 aggregates, 5 groups. And these 5 groups are what? These 5 aggregates are aggregate of matter, aggregate of feeling, aggregate of perception, aggregate of mental formations, and aggregate of consciousness. Aggregate of matter means a group of material properties, beginning with the 4 essential elements, the element of earth, water, fire, and air, and so on. So, this group of actually 28 properties of matter is called matter aggregate. So the house is a matter aggregate, the rock is a matter aggregate, anything that is inanimate is composed of matter aggregate. Second one is feeling aggregate, that means just feeling. So feeling is of 3 kinds or 5 kinds. 3 kinds are pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, and neutral feeling. Pleasant feeling is again twofold. Pleasant feeling connected with the body and pleasant feeling in the mind. So 2 pleasant feelings and 2 unpleasant feelings, one connected with the body and the other in the mind. But neutral feeling is said to be only 1, mental. So there are first 3 kinds of feelings, and they can be divided into 5 kinds of feelings. And feeling is the experience of the object. Now there is pain, and we feel that pain with this feeling aggregate or this mental state. So feeling is mental, not material. That aggregate is the aggregate of perception, and perception means a mental state that makes marks of the objects. So whenever we experience an object, that mental state arises and makes a mark of that object. And that is why we recognize it when we bring to our mind later, or when we experience it later. So that making mark is what is translated as perception here. The aggregate is the aggregate of mental formations. Now, there are mental states that are called Cetasikas in Pali. And it is the word is translated as mental concomitants or mental factors. Ara in Pali. Because they are headed by a mental state, the volition, which is called karma and which is also called sankhara. So sankhara aggregate means the aggregate of mental states headed by volition, or headed by karma, or headed by sankhara. Aggregate is aggregate of consciousness. Here also, consciousness means the awareness of the object. And here awareness does not mean awareness we use in meditation, because awareness we use in meditation is actually mindfulness. Here, regarding consciousness, awareness means just a mere awareness of the object. So that mere awareness of the object is something like the connection with the object is what is called vijnana or citta in Pali. So these are 5 aggregates in brief, and among them the first one belongs to metta, or it is metta, and the other 4 are mental. So 1 material aggregate and 4 mental aggregates. Altogether we have 5 aggregates. And beings are made up of these 5 aggregates. Now human beings are made of 5 aggregates, animals are made of 5 aggregates, the celestial beings are also made of 5 aggregates. But there are some Brahmas who have only 1 aggregate, the first aggregate, or who have only 4 aggregates, the second, third, fourth, and fifth. But mostly beings are made of 5 aggregates. Among them, the metta aggregate is said to be always mundane. So it belongs to mundane level, the metta aggregate. But the other 4 aggregates, the mental aggregates, belong to both mundane and supramundane levels. So, among these 5 aggregates, we must understand that one is mundane and the other 4 are supramundane. And among these, the other 4 are both mundane and supramundane. So among these 4, the last one is said to be the chief. The consciousness is said to be the chief of other mental states. So consciousness is the chief, and feeling, perception, and mental formations aggregates are the followers of the 5th aggregate. That means the 3 aggregates, feeling, perception, and mental formations, always arise simultaneously with the 5th aggregate. That arise at the moment of enlightenment are called supramundane, and those that arise ordinarily are called mundane. So the 4 aggregates, feeling, perception, mental formations, and and consciousness are both mundane and supramundane. Belonging to this world, and supramundane means transcending or out of this world. So now we will try to understand the clinging. Now the aggregates are called aggregates of clinging. There are aggregates and there are aggregates of clinging. So there are 2 kinds of aggregates. Aggregates in general and aggregates of clinging. And aggregates of clinging means aggregates that are the objects of clinging. We we will try to understand the clingings. Now there are four clingings. Clinging to sense objects, clinging to wrong views, clinging to wrong practices, and clinging to the doctrine of self, clinging to the doctrine that there is a self. Clinging, there are four kinds of clinging, and the first clinging is actually the tanha, the craving. But craving which has become strong. So the craving which is not so strong is called craving, and the craving which has become strong is called clinging. So when it reaches the level of clinging, then that means it will not let go of the object. It is compared to a snake swallowing a frog. Clinging to wrong views means just wrong views. Now, when a person believes that there is no karma, there is no results of karma, there is no rebirth, no other world, and so on, then he is said to have wrong views. So the wrong views themselves are called clinging to wrong views. The third is the clinging to wrong practices, wrong rites and wrong rituals, taking those rites and rituals to be the way to eradication of mental defilements. So this is also a kind a kind of wrong view to doctrine of self, clinging to the belief that there is a self. This self is the one that sees, that hears, and so on. So when we hear, it is not us that hear, but the Atman hears, and so on. So belief in a permanent self is the fourth clinging. So clinging to the doctrine of self. Among these four, the first is tanha, craving, and the other three are wrong views. So in reality, there are only two clingings, craving and wrong view. Now, we cling to the objects with any one of these clingings. Whenever we experience an object, we always cling to that object. Sometimes by the first one, clinging sensed object, or sometimes maybe with the second or the third or the fourth. So it is said that if we are not mindful, if we do not practice mindfulness, we always cling to the objects with any one of these clingings. And the aggregates that are the objects of clinging are called aggregates of clinging. Aggregates of clinging means, again, aggregates that are the objects, or that can be the object of clinging. Now, if you look around, you will see that everything is the object of clinging. We can cling to everything by craving or by wrong view. So actually, everything in the world is the object of clinging. Now, I told you there are two kinds of aggregates, mundane and supramundane. Now, supramundane aggregates are never the object of clinging. So we cannot cling to path consciousness, we cannot cling to fruit consciousness, we cannot cling to nibbana with clinging. Aggregates are outside the range of the clinging. So here what Buddha said was the burden is the 5 aggregates of clinging. So that means 5 mundane aggregates. When we want to attain nibbana, don't we cling to nibbana? Yes or no? Yes? So when we say, may I attain nibbana, right? The nibbana we take as an object is not the real nibbana. It is the nibbana just in name or just a concept. The real nibbana we cannot take as object unless we get the path consciousness, unless we become enlightened. So nibbana cannot be clung to by these 4 clingings. The analogy given in the books is just as the flies cannot rest on the hot, coal, burning coal. So the mental defilements cannot take nibbana or the supramundane states as object. Now you know the 5 aggregates. 5 aggregates in general and 5 aggregates of clinging. And 5 aggregates in general are both mundane and supramundane, and 5 aggregates of clinging are mundane only, not supramundane. And these 5 aggregates of clinging that are mundane are said to be burden in this discourse. Burden. Now the commentary explains that they are called burden because they are difficult to look after, difficult to keep. So they are called a burden. Now, when explaining the meaning of the burden, the commentary dwells only on the physical body. So that we have got this physical body, right? So we have to keep it. We have to attend to the body. We have to make it stand, go, sit, lie down. We have to clean this body. We have to make it up. We have to feed this body. And so these are all burdens. These are all burdensome things that we have to do with regard to the body. And so the body is said to be a burden. See the body as a burden? Yeah. Younger people may not think that it is a burden, right? But as you get older, older and older, you begin to understand that it is a real burden. You are not as strong as you are young. You are not as healthy. Your activities are not like before, and so you come to realize that it's a real burden to have this material body. Take care of this body in many ways. Even just to survive, so you have to be doing something. Now, when you go out, you may see people, say, running, jogging and so on. So whenever I saw people jogging, I had that feeling, oh, this is a burden. just to be alive, that you have to be running, right? There are two kinds of burdens. Those that are unavoidable and those that are avoidable. Now you wake up in the morning and you have to brush your teeth, wash your face and so on, and you have to take care of your body, your health, you have to take medicine and so on. So they are unavoidable. You have to do them to keep yourself healthy and alive. But there are some things, I think, that are avoidable, but that people willingly take upon themselves. Yeah? Now I talk about jogging, right? Jogging is okay because it is for one's health. But there are people who go to lengths or who would do anything to get their body in good shape, a beautiful body, to be thin, to be beautiful. So these are avoidable burdens of the body the people are taking upon themselves. And also there are people, say, who want to get big muscles, both men and women. And what they have to do is, I have compassion for them. Right? They have to weightlifting, right? The heavy burden they have to pick up, and then they practice with these big machines, and so these are the things they accept willingly, right? And also some people want to remove the wrinkles, facelift and so on. So they have to suffer to get just facelift. So there are a lot of dukkhas which people willingly accept, just to be beautiful, or just to have big muscles and say to have a good name, or to get money. But the sad thing about it is, those people do not necessarily live longer. They may get fame, they may get money, which is short-lived, but they don't live longer necessarily. We talk about the physical body. I think we include the mental aggregates also, because this cannot be isolated. And also, we want to have good feelings. We want to have pleasant feelings and not unpleasant feelings. So we have to make effort. We have to do something to feel good, to have the good feeling. So that is also the burden of the feeling aggregate. And then we want to remember pleasant things. We don't want to remember unpleasant incidents or unpleasant objects. So, but although we don't want to remember unpleasant objects, as you know, during meditation, they can come up out of nowhere. The long forgotten memories and so on. So we have to try hard to get free from them, and that is also the burden of the perception aggregate. And with regard to the mental formation aggregates, so mental formations mean these cetasikas. So these cetasikas arise and disappear, and so we want to have good karma. So we avoid bad karma and good karma. So that is also a kind of burden. So the five aggregates, that is why Buddha said these five aggregates are burden. So the moment you get these five aggregates as a burden, you have to carry it all along until the end of the life. There is not a single moment when you can put it down. So you always have to carry this. So imagine carrying that heavy load on your back, and there is no respite, no interval between the burden. So how heavy it is, the burden of the 5 aggregates is. That burden over, finished when one dies. This moment, you get rid of this the burden, and next moment you get another burden, maybe even heavier. So this burden goes on and on and on until the end of the samsara. So there is no rest period when you are carrying this burden of the 5 aggregates. So now we understand the burden, 5 aggregates of clinging. Now the second is the carrier of the burden. So Buddha said, who is the carrier of the burden? Or what is the carrier of the burden? And Buddha said, it is the person, it is the individual. Maybe someone by this name or by that name. So the person or the individual is the carrier of that burden. Now here comes the problem. Yeah? Now please note the word. The burden is bhara, and the burden carrier is bharahara. Now there are people, mostly non-Buddhist people or Western people. Please excuse me. Who want to put Atman into Buddhism. So who try to find every indication that Buddha believed in Atman or something like that. And so here they said that now here Buddha is saying the person is the carrier of the burden. So Buddha accepts that a person exists in reality. Now, the English translation of this discourse is very different. It is translated here as the taking hold of the burden, which I translated as burden carrier. So the word bharahara, the word hara can mean carrying as well as a person who carries. So he took the hara, the word hara, to mean carrying. And so he translated as the taking hold of the burden. But the next word is lifting of it up. So I want to ask him, what is the difference between taking hold of the burden and lifting it up? Sometimes people are very, very stubborn. Because they want to make the person existent, or they want to make Buddha accept the person in reality. So here they said it is the bharahara is to be translated as taking hold of the burden and not the carrier of the burden. The things that in Buddhism the burden carrier or a person or individual in reality is not accepted. So in order to avoid that, he translated the word as not the burden carrier but the taking hold of the burden. So which is the same as saying lifting up of the burden. So there are some people who said, according to this discourse, there is a person accepted by the Buddha. And this translator quotes one book here where the author of that book said something different from what we understand. That book was quoted in this translation, and it says, the author of this sutra, this discourse, did not entertain the view that the person is nothing except the five aggregates. Now, that is the correct view, right? So he says, the author of this sutra, he takes the Buddha to be the author, or somebody who wrote this discourse. So the author of this sutra did not entertain the view that the person is nothing except the five aggregates. As these authorities, Buddhaghosa, Vasubandhu, Chandrakirti, and Yasomitra insist. Yanasoda does not believe that a person is nothing but the five aggregates. A person in reality exists. So the author of this Sutta believes that way. Although the authorities like the Venerable Buddhaghosa and other Buddhist scholars, Buddhist teachers insist. So that means Venerable Buddhaghosa and Vasubandhu, Chandrakirti, and Yasomitra, all the Buddhaghosa belong to Theravada Buddhism and the others belong to Mahayana Buddhism. So both Mahayana and Theravada agree here that there is no person, just the five aggregates. But he said this sutta believes in the person against what these Buddhist teachers insist. So he is going against these authorities on Buddhism. So I think the author of that book meant to say that I don't care what these ancient authorities on Buddhism said, because here is a sutta, and so I will take that Buddha believes in or Buddha accepted the person as a reality. So he is actually, contradicting the tradition, which has been handed down from generation to generation for more than 2,500 years. But this author just born in maybe 19th century. He's far away from the Buddha with regard to time or place or tradition or culture. But sometimes these people think that they know more than those who are closest to the Buddha knew. They discovered something that was hidden from these disciples, the immediate disciples. So it's very it is sorry fact. So such people seem to try to break the tradition, but I think tradition is too strong for them. And he also said, all those who maintain that the sutra accepts a person are justified. Now, here Buddha said the carrier of the burden is the person. So I think what they think was the burden must be different from the carrier, right? The burden is one thing and the carrier is another. So here Buddha said 5 aggregates are burden and the person is the carrier. So the person must be a different thing from the 5 aggregates, or he must be a separate entity, a permanent entity or Atman that bears the burden. So I think they argued, maybe they argued that way. But there are hundreds of instances where Buddha used the word person or individual in his talks. If we were to take that because Buddha used the word person in this sutta, the Buddha accept the person as reality, then Buddha was the strongest promoter of the existence of a person. Because you read every sutta and you find the word individual or person hundreds of times. Buddha did not believe in the existence of a person. Then why did he use these words in his teachings? So, as I said, you find hundreds of these words in the discourses. So Buddha had to use these terms because he could not avoid using them. He could not say a bundle of 5 aggregates, right? Goes to the monastery, and a bundle of 5 aggregates gave a Dhamma talk. A bundle of 5 aggregates make donations to the monasteries. He could not say that. So he had to use the conventional terms so that people understand. So Buddha did not go against the conventional language, because it is through this conventional language that he reached people. If he were to use just the aggregates and bases or elements and so on, nobody would understand him. So he had to use the conventional language to make people understand, so that they can practice and they can get the benefits of his teaching. So Buddha used both conventional terms and absolute terms when he preached, and he was like a very clever teacher. A teacher teaching to a class made up of people belonging to different nationalities would speak to a certain group in their own language and to another group in their language and so on, so that they can understand him. So in the same way, when Buddha talked, he used the conventional terms to those people who would understand the conventional terms and then practice and get results. And he would use absolute terms to those who would understand those absolute terms, like when he went up to Tawatingsa heaven and preached Abhidhamma to the gods. And also in Vinaya, Buddha used conventional terms only. Like when you say, if a monk cuts a tree, so he comes to an offense, but he did not say if a five aggregate with the ropes cuts the material aggregate, then he comes to some offense. Nobody would understand if he used the absolute terms. So he used if a monk. Not that Buddha believed that a monk in reality exists. But he had to use these terms to make his monks, his disciples understand. So here also, to make his audience understand, to the monks understand, Buddha used the conventional terms. So he said, the burden carrier is the person. Okay, so the burden carrier is the person. But we have one problem, one still to be solved. Now the person is also the five aggregates. And so the five aggregates are the burden, and the five aggregates are those that carry the burden. So these two are the same. Now, this is the usage. When we use language, sometimes we use words, different words to describe one thing. Or sometimes we use words as though, say, they were different. Now, a branch of a tree. Now, what is a tree? It's a combination of the trunk and branch. The branch is included in the tree, right? So we say a branch of a tree means saying the same thing again. A branch and a tree are not two different things, right? But we use this usage, a branch of a tree, or maybe a member of the community. So the member is included in the community, but we use the word as though community is one thing and the member is another. They're separate things, but the member is included in the community. So this is the usage that we cannot violate. So Buddha used here the word person to drive the point that the five aggregates are burden, and so a person, according to the conventional sense, is the one who has to carry that burden. So this explanation actually comes from the commentary. So the commentary says, thus, a person who is established as mere convention is shown as the burden carrier. So a person who is established as mere convention, it is established as a usage that this the bundle of five aggregates is called we call a person. So this term has come to be established to represent these five aggregates, and only when this term is used could people understand. So the Buddha used the word person, or Buddha describes that the person who is established as a mere convention is the burden carrier. So who is the burden carrier? The person, the individual. So the individual is the one who has to carry this heavy burden from the moment of conception all through his life, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years, and then death comes and he throws down this old burden and he has to pick up the new burden the next moment. And then he has to go on carrying that burden to the end of the life, and then to the next life, and so on. And so the person is said to be the carrier of this, the burden of the five aggregates of clinging. Okay. Now, taking up the burden is craving, and laying down the burden is the total cessation of suffering. So I'll explain these to you tomorrow.
và